Hello everyone, I am Nishani Maiyuran. I'm 16 years old in 11th grade from Sacramento, California. And today I'll be talking about the impact of race and gender on the prognosis of breast and pancreatic cancer. Cancer is a term that is heard often within the world. Not everyone really knows what cancer is, leading to the misuse of the word over the years. So what is cancer? Cancer is a genetic disease in which body cells grow uncontrollably and spread to other parts of the body. It is caused by changes in genes that tell the cell what to do and how to work. It can start anywhere in the human body due to the number of dividing cells that resonate in the body. Cancer cells can result of malfunctions in cell division, which forms a tumor that can spread into nearby tissues and form new tumors, a process known as metastasis. The capabilities of cancer are being looked into more and more, such cancer therapies which could eventually lead to a big discovery. To really understand the effects of cancer on the world, we can look at the following facts and statistics. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the world since 1993. In saying this, it has been accounted for at least 10 million deaths in 2020 alone. Cancer is a tricky disease because there is no cure for it. We only have treatments that don't guarantee it being gone forever. The earlier the cancer is detected, the better because it is easier to get a grasp of it and attempt to treat it before it spreads. A few treatments include surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and immunotherapy. The treatment is chosen based on the type of cancer and how far it has progressed. So there are a lot of factors that do affect cancer that are either controllable or uncontrollable. These factors are not always directly associated with the cancer, but have been proved by many epidemiology studies that have some sort of effect on the cancer. Controllable factors include things like diet, radiation exposure, tobacco, substance use, and these factors are things that we consciously know are in our power to change. But it has also been found that tobacco is the leading cause of cancer prognosis and death because of the amount of chemicals in tobacco and how harmful they are to many parts of our body. And on the other hand, we have the uncontrollable factors like age, race, and gender, which are aspects of us as humans that we are born with and cannot alter. These factors have not been looked into as much, but studies still show that they have some sort of effect on cancer in general. There are two factors in particular that I chose to look at a little bit more. And the ones I chose are race and gender. As I mentioned earlier, these factors are uncontrollable and haven't been researched as much, which really sparked my interest. Of the studies that I could find, it was evident that race was prevalent in the susceptibility of certain cancers, as well as the survival rate with those cancers. Gender is not looked to as much in the case of cancers relating to specific gender organs. Due to the various lives men and women live, their exposure is very different, as well as their organs, and it has been proved by studies to make a significant impact. And the two types of cancers that I chose to compare are with the factors race and gender are breast and pancreatic cancers, which are very different types of cancers in terms of where they start out in the body, the global survival rate, and the way that they function. Breast cancer is a very common type of cancer that affects primarily women due to the organ that is affected, but it also has a lot of a higher survival rate. The three types of subtypes of breast cancer are hormone receptor positive, HER2 positive, and triple negative. But unlike breast cancer, pancreatic cancer is one of the less common cancers that affects genders, but its survival rate is much lower to how harder it is to treat. So, in regards to pancreatic cancer, African Americans are a lot more likely to develop it opposed to Asians, Hispanics, and white people. This could be due to risk factors that are much more common for African Americans that include smoking, diabetes, and being overweight. The risk of getting pancreatic cancer is double in the people who smoke versus the people who do not, and about 25% of pancreatic cancer is correlated with smoking. A few other reasons could include a higher likelihood for African Americans to have pancreatitis and diabetes mellitus, which are other factors, risk factors for pancreatic cancer. Men are also most likely to get pancreatic cancer due to some of the factors that are involved and I mentioned earlier. Regarding breast cancer, on the other hand, white people are a lot more likely to develop the cancer, but African Americans are close behind. Hispanic and Native Americans are likely to get breast cancer. Black people are more likely to have an aggressive form of breast cancer and also have are more likely to be diagnosed at a younger age compared to white people. African Americans also have the highest death rate for breast cancer out of any race. So, which gender is more likely to get breast cancer? Well, this seems obvious. Women, obviously, due to their body part and the female body part that involves. Breast development for women takes about 3 to 4 years and is normally completed around the age of 14. Men do not have fully formed breasts. They normally have fat but not formed glands, but that doesn't mean that they can't get breast cancer. Once breasts are in full formation, the cells become very active and can be termed immature. They can act like this until a woman's first full-term pregnancy. Therefore, this is a long period of time. And it's extremely responsive to hormones as estrogen and even hormone disruptors. The cells in men's breasts are inactive and they have a low level of estrogen, which reduces their susceptibility to breast cancer immensely. It was also found that cancer growth in general in men especially in breast cancer, are more susceptible because of their X chromosome. Women have 2 X chromosomes while men only have 1. And when this one is possibly damaged, it shuts down, but since women have 2, they have the other X chromosome to kind of help them out. The prognosis of pancreatic cancer depends on numerous factors, including the size and the type of the tumor. Also, whether lymph nodes are involved and the degree of metastasis is very important, and they're major prognostic factors. Pancreatic cancer is more likely to be found in the later stages, but the earlier it is found, the easier to treat, which goes for pretty much all cancers. With the diagnosis of pancreatic cancer at such a late stage, it makes it nearly impossible to do anything about it. Resectable tumors also play a huge part in the survival rate of breast cancer patients and pancreatic cancer patients, because if the tumor can be even partially resected, it helps out the cancer and helps it from not spreading. Breast cancer diagnosis depends on the stage of cancer, whether it has spread to the lymph nodes, the size, the grade of the tumor, hormone receptor status, and the HER2 status. Catching any cancer earlier is always better because it lessens the chance of coming back or spreading, which leads to much worse scenario. The most important part of prognosis is whether it has spread to the lymph nodes, because of the moment it spread to the lymph nodes, the more lymph nodes that contain cancer. Tumor size is the second most important prognosis because the bigger the tumor, the more likely it has to spread, and it's harder to shrink or resect. Along with that, the lower the tumor grade, the better the prognosis is going to be. The HER2 gene is the gene that controls the proteins on the surface of the cells that leads to their growth. Cells positive for HER2, the gene, are more likely to spread and cause a recurrence, resulting in a worse prognosis. Both gender and race play a significant role in breast cancer and pancreatic cancer in many different ways. Gender is an aspect that is always important in any medical prognosis because of the male and female body parts that vary regarding their functions and much, much more. Race has also had its significance in medical prognosis, although it's not as prominent compared to gender. The race of a patient can be useful in scenarios with infants, for example, as it is an important predictor for birth weight, gestational age, and the risk of infant mortality. As mentioned earlier, certain races are also more susceptible to specific diseases and the outcomes of these diseases. In cancer prognosis, gender is the most important in things like breast cancer, prostate cancer, and ovarian cancer because they deal with cancers that are specific to one gender. Gender is also important for any type of prognosis regarding cancer because it is known to be like susceptible to one gender for different reasons, which could be environmental issues or bodily structures. Anatomically speaking, males and females have different structures that play a part in cancer prognosis. Race has a part in cancer prognosis, as well as some races are more prone to a few cancer risks. Epigenetic alteration and genetic polymorphisms are two reasons genetically why there are difference in severity and survival rate, etc., of different types of cancers. Various are environmental factors and gender factors, genetic factors are come into play with certain races and why they're more prone, and they also can play a direct role in increasing cancer diagnosis. Diet has also been found to be a significant reason why races are more commonly diagnosed with cancers opposed to others. According to the SEER database, some of the people, like including the white race, are more likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer compared to the other races, as we can see by this table. It's also shown that the presence of estrogen is very significant because it is found in women. There are other variables that are mentioned, and they do show an effect, but looking at the estrogen status variable, this is one of the most significant factors. Race is also shown to be as important, especially in white people, because they have a 10 times more likelihood to be diagnosed with breast cancer compared to Black people and other people that in the other category on this data table. The diagnosis for pancreatic cancer for Black people was much higher all these years. As we can see in Figure A, we can see the red shows the Black race, and the white is shown with the blue. The diagnosis rate for white people shows to be a lot lower with a lot less variation. The death rate for Black individuals with pancreatic cancer is still higher than that of white individuals, although it is not significant compared to as comparative, which is seen in Figure B. It still proves the point that race has a clear and definite effect on pancreatic cancer. The 5-year survival rate is displayed in Figure C. In this diagram, there's less of a difference between Black and white people, but we see there's some overlap and some highs and lows regarding it. This can mean that after being diagnosed, the long-term effects are different for different races, and as technology and medicine improves, it has also affected the race and prognosis. Based on research, it is clear that gender and race remain two factors that affect not only medicine, but cancer prognosis greatly. In comparison, the two genders seem to have a greater effect regarding the two types of cancers I looked into, breast and pancreatic cancer. It's also noticed that there isn't as much data regarding race because it hasn't been looked into as much. So this does affect the overall review that I have given. And saying that, the data that I reviewed has raised a few questions. Do the factors race and gender have a stronger effect on other types of cancers? Or are breast and pancreatic cancer the only ones that are affected? Another question is, since race did not have as much of an effect in comparison to gender, how differently are our bodies built differently based on our race? And finally, the last question I have is more research warranted in studying how these factors, both alone and in context of others, affect cancer prognosis and treatment? And this is something we should be looking into and trying to further in the future. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you were enlightened and learned a lot more about cancer. If you would like to read my entire paper about this topic, please check out my Polygence page. Thank you once again.